Well, hello, folks, and welcome back to a brand new and long time coming episode of the Outdoor Evolution podcast. So, it has been over a year since I've done an episode of the Outdoor Evolution. So, today I just kind of wanted to catch everybody up. I wanted to sit down and talk about what happened to Outdoor Evolution. Why haven't we done a podcast episode in over a year? Where has the website gone? If anybody's been looking around and clicking links and wondering where the site went, and talk about the future of Outdoor Evolution, what I'm actually planning on doing with Outdoor Evolution and this podcast into the future. And I guess not to bury the lead right off the start here, I am bringing the podcast back. I'm going to start doing many more episodes of the podcast and much more regular, but in a different way, a little bit of a different angle with the podcast and presenting it in a different place. And for anybody that might be watching this, I'm going to try a little bit of a video angle. You know, in the past, I never really did much of a video format of the Outdoor Evolution. Every once in a while, we would shoot a little bit, maybe put like a little teaser up on the Outdoor Evolution's YouTube channel, but never did full-on episodes. So I figured for this one, I might film it and then possibly put it out on the YouTube. So hopefully everybody's been doing well from this long hiatus. The last episode that I did was in middle of January. Middle of January 2024, and I believe I did it with Mr. Dan Becker. And then over the past year, I have just had a lot of stuff going on and just kind of had to step back from the podcast. Coming back to YouTube full time, as most of you that have been listening for a while know, I took about a year hiatus from YouTube and really focused more on Outdoor Evolution, focused more on this podcast, some of the other projects I was doing, and Outdoor Evolution sort of evolved, if you will, into something completely different. And then when I made the decision to come back to YouTube, just doing a lot, trying to create weekly content on the channel again, and still trying to do some of my other projects, like film projects, doing a lot of world travel, and on top of that, now owning a gear company, Evolved Supply Co., my gear company. I just had a lot on my plate, so over the past year, I've just needed to take a step back from the podcast. And that's not to say that I don't have a lot going on now. Currently working on a bunch of different travel for the year. Going to be shooting a couple of film projects this year. Currently trying to get a film edited and finished and out the door that I shot last year in Nepal. And on top of that, still have the gear company. It's actually in the other room. So the studio that I'm sitting in right now to record the podcast, there is a room in between me and the gear company, machines and all of our stock and making packs and everything else. So a lot going on in my world, but I've missed this format. I've wanted to come back to it. And for any of you that are a fan of my YouTube channel, you might have noticed that recently I started doing some kind of trip debrief podcast, trip reports. So when I get back from a trip, I've been sitting down and mapping it all out and showing everybody kind of the logistics of my trip, where I camped, how many miles, the food, all of that stuff. And that's kind of made me miss doing this, miss just jumping on here and talking about my thoughts and my feelings, my ideas, and the things that I have going on, the things that other people have going on in this whole outdoor community world. So that's what we're going to get into today. So I guess to take you back a little bit and let's talk about Outdoor Evolution, kind of how it started. I started Outdoor Evolution in 2019. I first got the idea when I was out on my 2018 PCT thru hike. I just wanted to do something different. I'd started my YouTube channel in 2015 and it kind of blew up, I guess, quote unquote, in 2016, 2017. And it was going great. And when I was out on the PCT, I was just wanting to kind of branch out and do something new and creative. I'd come up with an idea that I wanted to shoot a documentary, which some of you know, which that came to be Through the Great Southwest, the Arizona Trail documentary that I shot. By the way, just released it on YouTube for the first time in 5 years. So it now lives on YouTube. So anyone that has heard me talk about it for the last 5 years has never seen it because you didn't want to watch it on Amazon or Vimeo. You can now watch it on my YouTube channel. And all that kind of plays into something that I'll talk about here in a little bit, kind of a plan for this year of what I've been trying to do with some of my content. So anyways, That's really what I wanted to do. That's kind of how Outdoor Evolution got started. And then I started thinking about, well, if I'm going to do a documentary, I kind of want to start a media company because I'm already doing all the media on social media with Darwin on the Trail and my YouTube channel. But if I'm going to do these new things like films, I had the idea for the podcast at the same time. And I knew a lot of other great creatives in the space that were making amazing things, whether it was photo projects, writing books, blogs, other YouTube channels, photographers, filmmakers. I wanted to make a platform where I could make my own media that was different from Darwin on the Trail, so the podcast, the films. But I also wanted to give a platform to some of the people that I knew that I thought were just amazing in the community and have contributors, have people post things on the website and share their thoughts and their feelings about the outdoor community and their adventures and what they were after. So that's kind of how Outdoor Evolution was born. In the beginning of 2019, I was going to go out to start to shoot the film, the documentary that became Through the Great Southwest. And before I did it, I knew that I wanted to establish the media company. So when I made the film, it would be a production of Outdoor Evolution. So we started Outdoor Evolution in early 2019. The website launched in February 2019. So this month, Outdoor Evolution is 6 years old, which is kind of crazy to be 100% honest. I went from, at that time, I was still living out of a van full time, still spending a lot of time every year on trail. I'd say probably about 6 months a year on trail. My wife and I were traveling full time. And then now today, I'm here in a building, in a studio. And the reason this studio exists wasn't for my YouTube channel. This was for Outdoor Evolution. We built this for Outdoor Evolution. Our offices, where not only were we trying to make content, original content for OE, but also Outdoor Evolution was set up to branch off and do production work for other companies, which, if some of you have been following for a while, know that I had a separate off branch of Outdoor Evolution called OE Media, which obviously stands for Outdoor Evolution Media, where we were creating content and marketing and website photos and videos and all that stuff for other companies in the outdoor industry, gear companies, friends of mine that had companies, a big spectrum of different companies that we had done work for over the years. And one of the reasons that I kind of stepped away from YouTube was because I just had so much going on with doing that. So we started the website. It launched in February 2019. And when we launched it, it had a lot of contributors. I had people that I knew over the years, photographers and writers and stuff like that, wrote articles. Jess, my wife, or Snuggles, as some of you probably know her, was writing a bunch of articles for the website. And we were publishing things on the website. Now, when Outdoor Evolution was started, the whole idea was we weren't doing it to make a profit. We were never going to really sell anything. Like maybe we would do a little bit of merch here and there, which you guys have probably, if you've been listening for a while, might have bought a sticker over the years or a hat or something like that, but not as a business decision. That's not what Outdoor Evolution was. It was just a creative outlet, really. I love to do new things. I love to try new things and just be creative in my creativity, if that makes any sense. So that's really what Outdoor Evolution was. It wasn't ever to make any money. And to that point, in the past 6 years, Outdoor Evolution hasn't made any money. Outdoor Evolution has completely existed because of me, because of my YouTube channel and stuff like that. So the little bit of money that I was making at that time, 2018, 2019, into 2020, all of the money I was making on YouTube, all of the money, the little bit of money that I was making on YouTube, affiliate links, and other things that I had going on, that was funding Outdoor Evolution. So Outdoor Evolution was really a passion project, right? Then we did the film Through the Great Southwest, which we did sell, but again, that money was made to be able to donate back to public lands and public lands organizations. Throughout the years, we started different projects like hashtag Give a Shit. Some of you might remember that, or might remember listening to the episodes here where we were trying to get companies to really give back to the outdoor industry. And we just tried a lot of things. I would say that Outdoor Evolution was more of a think tank for me to kind of see what I could creatively throw at the wall and see what would come out of it, which was amazing. Well, in 2021, we started the podcast, the Outdoor Evolution podcast, which is what I wanted to do from the beginning, but it took kind of a while to get there, which is what you guys are listening to now. So the podcast is now 4 years old, which again is absolutely crazy to me. Obviously, I don't do as many podcasts as a lot of podcasts do. A lot of podcasts are doing like weekly podcast or bi-monthly. So this is kind of a here and there whenever it feels right and I have a good guest. Obviously today there is no guest. It's just me, myself, and I. And the podcast was, to me, kind of what I wanted OE to always be. I wanted it to be a place to where I could talk about things that maybe if I talked about in a YouTube video, people wouldn't 100% jive with it, right? Because people coming to my YouTube channel, Darwin on the Trail, were coming to be positively inspired by, me getting out and hiking or me talking about gear. Hopefully they got recommendations. I helped them shake down their pack, get ready for a hike, and just overall help enhance their experience in the outdoors or get them into the outdoors. Where what I was doing on Outdoor Evolution and the podcast specifically is kind of talking about some of the other end of the spectrum, which, with all of the media making and working with companies and the outdoor industry and community as a whole, there's always going to be trouble, right? There's always going to be a bad apple or the dark side of it, I guess we'll say. So the whole point of starting the podcast was to talk about these deeper topics. Well, over the years, I got a lot of different feedback about the podcast. Some people really liked it, some people really didn't like it, and we tried to morph it and do different things with it. Now, all that being said, I've been super proud of this podcast since the day I started it. I've loved this podcast. And the whole format of podcasting has kind of changed over the last 4 years, where it all used to be audio. Now a lot of podcasting is video, hence why I'm trying this format. And everything was going good. Everything was fine. I was spending a lot more time with OE Media and doing content for other companies. Well, back in 2022, a couple different things happened. I'll spare a lot of the details, but what I'll say is we were having some issues at OE Media. Some of the clients that we were working for, not 100%, we'll say paying their bills on time, making sure that the companies that we were supporting, that they were supporting us. And it started to get to the point to where I was very wrapped up in it and very consumed with it. And it was taking a lot of my time and it was putting me in financial strains a little bit. So at the beginning of 2023, I decided to take a step back from OE Media a little bit, from doing the client work. And with that being said, the folks that I had here working in the office for OE Media and Outdoor Evolution, so you had the OE Media side of it, which would be like my editor, Jonathan, my right-hand man, who helped me do so much amazing work. We shot a film in Fiji for Sawyer. And then I had the other side of it, which was Outdoor Evolution. So the people that were helping me to publish stuff on the website, handle social media, do the podcast, do all of that. It got to the point to where I was taking a step back from it, not as interested so much in doing the client work side of it. And I was starting to get inspired to want to do YouTube videos again, to come back to YouTube, to share my thoughts. After taking that hiatus, I realized, well, maybe this isn't something that I want to quit forever. Maybe this is just something that I needed to take a step back from, and now I'm inspired to do it again. So I decided to start making my way back to YouTube. And with that transition, what ended up happening is I kind of lost help for Outdoor Evolution. The people that were helping to publish articles, the people that were helping to find like sponsors and stuff for the hashtag give a shit sponsorship, all of that stuff kind of started to fall away a little bit. And I started not getting as much help. And on top of that, I noticed there was a bit of a decline from the community, from people that used to contribute to the website. And for one reason or another, it just kind of plateaued and it kind of halted, right? And at some point, Outdoor Evolution became a thing that I was just kind of paying for, but I didn't really have time to do as much. Now, with that being said, I've released a handful of films. There is Through the Great Southwest. There's The Community, which was the short film that my buddy Chris and I shot on the Appalachian Trail. There was Hawaii, the Fiji film that I did for Sawyer. So all of that was product. Uh, all of that was part of Outdoor Evolution because Outdoor Evolution was the production company. So over the last handful of years, really Outdoor Evolution shifted to being films and a podcast and less of the website community aspect of it. And with that being said, I kind of had to pick and choose. I'm somebody that will put a lot on my plate. It's just kind of how I always have been, no matter what I've done for doing YouTube and this media and being Darwin and creating outdoor content for 10 years and everything before that. When I used to race triathlon, when I, had just got out of high school, when I was in high school, I like keeping myself busy and putting a lot of stuff on my plate. And I was to the point where I had too much on my plate, so I had to start shaving some stuff back. All of that being said, it's a long way of saying that over the last year, with Outdoor Evolution kind of fading away a little bit and just becoming about films and me being very focused, because if any of you have ever seen somebody or known somebody, if you yourself have ever edited a film and worked on a film, it takes a long time. Give you an example. I shot a documentary film, we'll call it a short film, in Nepal in April of 2024, and we're still currently editing it and hoping to get it out in about a week. So it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of money to do things like that. So with Outdoor Evolution, the original concept of it sort of fading away, me taking a break from the podcast, at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I decided that Outdoor Evolution, the website, the community hub where I was posting all of this stuff, really wasn't getting attention. I didn't personally have time to update it and do things with it. Again, because it doesn't bring in revenue, so it's hard to find somebody and hire somebody. I'm not just going to ask people to help me for free. I want to be able to pay somebody if I'm going to bring them on to do it. It all kind of started to fade away. So I made the decision for 2025, that I wanted to bring everything that I do that I love, from films to the podcast to my YouTube channel to everything, under one roof. And I made the decision as I was getting close to the renewal date for the Outdoor Evolution website that I would finally let it go. And I let the website expire. So to give you a rough idea, with hosting and the domain name and custom websites and everything, I was paying about $900 a year just to maintain the website. And the fact that the website hadn't done anything in a year, it seemed like I didn't want to do that going forward, because my plan and what I'm working on now, and the whole point that I'm doing this, is I wanted to put everything under one roof. And I've had a website for probably going on 9 years, darwinonthetrail.com, where I always publish my gear lists. At one time, we published articles. I will update things on kind of my adventures, what I've done in the past, what I plan on doing in the future. I wanted to revamp my website and my portfolio of everything I've done, from my YouTube videos to the gear that I've designed, to the adventures that I've been on, the adventures that I want to go on, my podcast, my films, everything under one roof. So right now, we are actually building a brand new darwinonthetrail.com, and this is a long way of getting there. That is where the Outdoor Evolution podcast will now live. So what Outdoor Evolution has become is a podcast. It's become the Outdoor Evolution podcast. Not so much the articles and the merch and all of that stuff, but I really just want to pour all the effort into the podcast, because the podcast is something easy for me to do. I can jump on here, I can chat with you folks, I can share my opinions, I can bring in guests, and we can have meaningful conversations, and I can just let it be another outlet of what I'm doing in the field every year. Whether it's a trip overseas or it's a trip here domestically, a through hike, a section hike, or something I'm creating, whether it's a film or a different side project or my gear company, but using this as that outlet and still having those meaningful conversations to hopefully do what Outdoor Evolution was created to do, which was inspire people to go explore and create, to inspire people to explore and create. Just simply to maybe trigger something in your brain that makes you want to go out and seek adventure, to see something new, to challenge yourself, and then create something out of that, whether it is a podcast or a YouTube video or a film or a book or a photo essay or whatever it is. That's always been the intention of why I started doing all of this, from my YouTube channel to the films to the podcast to Outdoor Evolution, has always been to give something back to the world, because I was inspired by seeing other people do things and living out a different life. And 10 years ago, a decade ago, when my wife and I got rid of everything, we sold 95% of the things we owned, we moved into a minivan with our dog, and we started traveling full time. Then we went to go hike the Appalachian Trail, and the rest is history. 10 years happened. And all of that was because I was inspired by something to go change my life and explore the world. And then the way I could repay it was by creating something. And that's where the YouTube channel started. So that is the continued goal of me and Outdoor Evolution and everything that I want to do going forward. So that's a really long explanation, but I figured it would be good to kind of base the history and talk about the history of Outdoor Evolution and kind of honor it over the past 6 years of everything that I was able to do with this little goofy idea that I had on the Pacific Crest Trail of like, hey, what if I went and shot a documentary? What if I went and shot a film? And then what would that look like? Would I put that on my YouTube channel? Would I do something different with it? And man, I know some creative, awesome people that have kind of a different view and a vision. I wonder what I could do with that. And that's what it was all born out of. So to everyone that has contributed to Outdoor Evolution over the years, whether you've been a co-host on the podcast, whether you wrote an article on the website, whether you provided photos when we posted it on social media, whether you helped build that website, if you've been any part of the Outdoor Evolution world, thank you so much for its legacy of 6 years. And I hope that I can do it justice by continuing it forward and this revamp that I want to do on my own media and bringing it to darwinonthetrail.com, trying to put out new episodes as frequently as I can, and to share more with you guys to, again, hopefully inspire you so you can explore, and then hopefully you can create something and put it out in the world. So thanks for coming along on this ride. You know, whether you jumped on this train 6 years ago, whether it was 4 years ago when we started the podcast, or you've just started listening, I can't thank you enough for your support for the Outdoor Evolution. Now, what is the plan going forward? Well, the plan going forward is to do more of these episodes and do them as frequently as I can. I have a couple ideas for some people that I want to bring in to be a co-host, have some cool conversations, but I also want to do more of these solo episodes where a little more impromptu, just kind of throw on the camera and share my thoughts about something and update you guys about what I have going on, maybe what I'm creating, where I'm going, the things that I am doing. That's the idea for the podcast going forward. So I'm going to try to do it as regular as possible. I'm going to try to get on mic as much as I possibly can. And then on top of that, I'm still going to be doing all of my videos. I'm kind of changing the format. If you guys watch my channel, I'll be doing an update video here soon. Maybe it will shock some of you, I guess I'll say. But I will be talking a lot about what I'm going to be doing going forward in the future on my YouTube channel. Now, it's not that I'm going to step back. It's not that I'm going to do really less. But I want to do something different, right? Any of you that have been following me for 10 years knows that I can't stay in one place for too long. It's why I started all this, right? I couldn't stay in one place too long. That's why I started traveling and living out of a van, because I couldn't stay in one place too long. It's why I got into thru hiking, because I couldn't stay in one place too long. And it's how I am creatively. I can't stay in one place too long. Every 2 years or so, I got to switch it up. I got to do something different, challenge myself in different ways. So there's this whole idea and this plan for my YouTube channel and the media going forward, and what I want to share with you guys, and the realness and the beauty, and doing some more travel, whether it is, internationally or it's here, and creating more films and having more conversations, and kind of keeping this awesome community that I've been able to build up for the past 10 years kind of intact, because I love it. I love it with all the weird hardships that I've talked about here on the podcast over the years, and the weird dealings I've had with certain companies and people and things. I love this, and I'd be lost without it. Honestly, I would be lost without getting on camera, getting on mic, and sharing my thoughts of how I feel about the world, and trying to create and craft the world that I want to see. So that's the plan going forward. Now, if you guys want to support me and the podcast and everything that I have, I highly recommend that you sign up for my Patreon account, which is Patreon/Darwin on the Trail. I've been doing Patreon for a long time. And over the past handful of years, I've actually been doing, let's see, now it's up to 3 different podcasts on Patreon alone. I do a weekly podcast almost every Monday morning called The First Cup, where I sit down, have a conversation about what I got going on, whether that's with the gear company, myself, the types of videos I'm working on. I also do a podcast on there called Spilling Tea. So if you guys have been listening to this podcast for a long time and you've heard me wink and nod and nudge at certain things, controversial topics, if that's something you guys are interested in, I kind of cut myself off there. I also do a third thing where it's called the Gear Closet, where I show new gear that I'm testing, new gear that I'm developing at my gear company, and all that stuff lives on Patreon. So if that's something that you're interested in, I'll put a link down in the show notes. If you want to help support me and the podcast and my YouTube channel and everything that I have going on that I put out here for free for you guys, whether it is this podcast, because this podcast does cost money, obviously, to do, to host, to edit. I do have an editor now, so, obviously I have to pay for his time. So if you want to help support that, I'll put that link down in the show notes, but it is patreon.com/Darwin on the Trail. So go check that out. You're probably also going to notice, if you listen to the last handful of episodes on the podcast, that I started bringing on a couple little sponsors for the podcast. Now, if you guys have been watching my YouTube channel over the past year, you'll know that I've brought on partners and sponsors to help me create some of that content going forward. So, some of these episodes, you might hear me mention some of my supporters, like Onyx Backcountry. A nice little shout out to Onyx Backcountry, a great company that's helped support my channel over the past year and allowed me to really do a lot of these trips. And I can tell you that this year alone, I have about 1 to 2 trips planned a month. And they're not just like here in my backyard. Like, I'm about to go up to Colorado next week. The week after, I'm headed up to Canada. Then I'm going out to Oregon. So I'm kind of all over the place. I'm in Alaska this year. I'm in Pakistan this year. So doing a lot of travel to be able to create new content, inspirational, awesome content to share with you guys, whether it's on my channel or here on the podcast. So I cannot thank companies like Onyx enough for sponsoring me and helping to support the channel and everything that I do. If you guys want, that's another way you can help support me. You can help support this podcast is by checking out the link down below. Actually, I'll do the kind of classic podcast thing. Listeners can get 20% off of the Onyx Backcountry app by clicking the link down in the show notes. I've listened to way too many other podcasts. But a little coffee break there. If you want to support me, all of that stuff is down in the description box or in the show notes. If you don't, if you can't, just by listening to this podcast, just by watching the YouTube videos, by watching the films when I put them out, or by leaving something like a review on this podcast, is a big help and a massive support for everything that I'm doing in the Darwin on the Trail /outdoor evolution world. So just by listening to this podcast and sharing it with some other folks, that helps support what I do as well. So again, guys, I can't thank you enough for tuning into this episode, and I am so excited for where we're going with the Outdoor Evolution, where I'm going with all this media, with this podcast, and I hope that you all will all stay tuned for what's next.